She cut off the dead person's braids, and then scalded the body with boiling water. Peel off the skin of your fingers again. Stick to your hands. Then he painted the deceased's makeup completely transformed into another person. Not long ago, street girl Sikine invites Zeolian to take shelter at home from the rain. During this period, two women chatted. Accidentally exposed the second-hand Rolex on his wrist. I also learned that Sikine is working alone in Shenzhen. There are no family or friends here. Xiaolian suddenly picked up and strangled Sikine's neck. Women don't even have time to react, to die in the underworld. Zeolian takes off her watch. Take the money and documents from your wallet. Unexpectedly, there were unexpected gains. Sikine has a Hong Kong pass. Zeolian is wanted nationwide for robbery and murder. At that time, Hong Kong was undoubtedly a good place to run. So I had an idea in my heart. She drew the same makeup on herself by comparing the photos of Sikine. Cut off her hair. Braid into fried dough twists braids. She's going to flee to Hong Kong as Sikine. At that time, there was no facial recognition technology available. Reviewers can only rely on their eyes for review. With some similarities in appearance, Zeolian successfully managed to pass the test. Just walked out the door. Sikine's husband is waiting at the door. Xiaolian brushed past her. The other party thinks it's their own wife. It turned out to be the wrong person. Zeolian has a new identity, but it didn't settle down here, because he still needs a suitable male identity. He wants to target customers with a personal relationship of 2 or 2. But I made all the calls on my business card. Unexpectedly, none of them could be contacted. Zeolian had to go to Zhanji to try her luck. In the middle of the night, a taxi driver arrived and the two of them haggled over the price. The driver takes Zeolian home. His home is located in a remote area, rarely traveled. Along the way, Zeolian calmly inquired about the other party's situation. The driver's name is Chen Kaiming. In one's 30s, making a living by driving taxis, hobby playing games. Divorced his wife a few years ago, throwing her daughter to an old mother to raise. Living alone in this remote house. Overall, it's a good goal. The man brought a street girl home. But the other party always had a cold face. Make Chen Kaiming lose all interest. After completion, he refused to refuse Chen Zeolian to stay overnight. Gave some extra money. Let her take a taxi and leave. Little did one know, he has been targeted by Zeolian. Xiaolian excuses going to the toilet, intentionally leaving the necklace at Chen Kaiming's house, and then I left. The next day, Chen Kaiming is walking on the road, suddenly hit by a car and flew away. Then the car ran over him again. The driver is Zeolian. Chen Kaiming did not die, but both legs are broken. Can only stay at home and recuperate all the time. Zeolian then came to her door, saying my necklace fell here. Although Chen Kaiming couldn't move his legs, but the color center is still not small. Xiaolian chuckled and said a few good words. Chen Kaiming couldn't find the north anymore. After Zeolian enters the house, immediately unlock the door, and all the curtains are closed. Chen Kaiming realized that it was not right, but she's 1.5 disabled, can only be slaughtered by others. Xiaolian tied him up with tape, causing the family dog to keep barking. After Zeolian killed him, Xiaolian finds Chen Kaiming's documents, start questioning her about some life issues. For example, how old are children and where do they go to school? Does anyone come here to look for him or something? Slow answer, just stab your thigh with a knife. Here, Zeolian's phone rings, change the usual indifference. Many gentle conversations with each other. That's her husband on the other end of the phone. He is also about to replace Chen Kaiming. Meanwhile, Chen Kaiming's mother has been unable to reach her son for many days, so I placed my granddaughter at a friend's house. I plan to visit my son's house. When he arrives, Zeolian didn't even see her son's tragic situation again. Startled, just getting ready to come forward and save someone, but Zeolian, who was driven back, was killed in one blow. Chen Kaiming watched as his old mother tragically died, except for the pain and wailing. But I can't do anything, so Zeolian just went to the dock to pick up her husband, who was illegally crossing the river. However, due to the heavy rainstorm, the ship could not stop, so Zeolian's mood is very bad. At this moment, a phone call came over. It's Chen Kaiming's daughter. Asked Grandma, when will you go home? If Grandma can't go back all the time, things are bound to be exposed, so we must also silence Chen Kaiming's daughter. Women take little girls to the suburbs, pinched her neck with one hand. Obviously, it's to kill people and silence them. At this point, she suddenly realized that, the medicine in the girl's pocket. It turns out that the little girl has congenital heart defect. I have to take medicine every day at a young age. The ruthless Zeolian suddenly softened her heart. Just a child. Liu Tai's order is also acceptable. Poor Chen Kaiming not only watched his old mother die tragically. At this point, my daughter also fell into the hands of the killer. That kind of sadness and despair is really crushing. At this point, she suddenly repented. Disrespectful to one's mother, not loving my daughter, spend all day foolishly, eventually causing trouble. But now that I figured it out, what's the use? Everyone has good and evil. Zeolian also shared her experiences. Because the landlord wants to tarnish himself, my husband killed her family of 5. When pursued by the police, husband's arm was bitten by a police dog. I fled to Hong Kong on my own. Must also obtain a legal identity for her husband. Chen Kaiming became this victim. But this seemingly seamless plan But Zeolian overlooked a man's love affair with her husband. The other party has been waiting for a long time and their wife cannot wait. Considering the whiff's return, you must go to the registered residence office to apply for a certificate. So he waited at the registered residence office all day. Zeolian came to extend her temporary ID card. When called by name, the man grabbed her in one go. "And I saw the watch I gave to my daughter-in-law," Zeolian responds quickly, shouting disrespect. "That's why I took advantage of the chaos and fled." But the man followed all the way. She went home. "Sneak in. I found the little girl tied up." Zeolian heard the commotion, intended to launch a surprise attack. But men have agile skills. Flicked the red lotus to the ground with a handful. Just when Chern Kaiming thought he was saved, Zeolian's husband arrives. Instantly killed a man. Fortunately, the little girl took the opportunity to run away, hiding in a small hole. My husband originally intended to stone her to death. But when Zeolian saw the medicine on the ground with only a trace of conscience left, she stopped her husband. The two of them left the little girl here to fend for themselves. After returning, chop off Chern Kaiming's hands, using a bandage and a broken arm together. Pretending to have a broken arm, successfully processed a new identification using fingerprints. This is also the reason why Zeolian has never killed Chern Kaiming. Maybe God has the virtue of good life. The next rainstorm continued, washed down the girl's curled hole. The workers repairing the dam discovered the girl, and the couple saw her rescued. Knowing that they need to relocate their positions, they're still wanted criminals, still need a suitable identity. Look at the earphone cover from behind.